So let's kind of finish up here domestically, and let's kind of get specific to the Green Party. Um, you mentioned all these other places that have proportional representation, or at least way more proportional representation than the United States does. And you see all these things. I mean, even something that comes to mind that's very recent that the Green Party's been vocal about is HR1, which
Mhm.
is a bill that has a lot of good things in it that we should have already had. I mean, there's a lot of things in there.
Right.
It's like it's sad that we need a bill for this. We should already have this, but we should have it. But unfortunately, they also include all these other things to screw over third parties even freaking harder. Which the Green Party has called to remove those things. How do we start changing our system so that we can have more proportional representation, better representation, and third parties have a shot? Because I feel like electorally, the duopoly needs to be broken. It's not even. I just think there's no other option at this point. Electorally, the duopoly needs to break.
I came out of the Saul Alinsky community organizing movement. Used to be a state head organizer for Acorn in the South and Southwest. And one of the things we told people is, the people who tell you can't beat City Hall are the people who run City Hall. And, you have to say that, hey, a lot of my friends are still trying to, reform the Democratic Party. Good luck. It's been 150 years, and it hasn't worked. And there's all these, reasons why it is not. It's very difficult. The Greens in Canada and in England have slightly broken through with a couple of members elected to the national parliament. I think the Greens need a reboot. I think the Greens, I'm one of the people in the Greens, even though I spent 30 years of my life, actually 40 years, professionally doing anti-poverty organizing. I'm one of the few people perhaps who view the Green Party as not being strong enough on the environment. I would like them to, sort of focus more on that. People have to make the decision to break with the two-party system, and you're hoping that things like, the Bernie Sanders campaign, sort of contributed to that. You always been young people have been the ones most willing to change. We always say, yeah, you should run and start locally. Well, the Greens been running local candidates for 35, 40 years. We elect, 50 to 100, a year. It's not enough. It's much more harder to win on the partisan stuff. Our ballot access laws are incredibly restrictive. There's no other democracy that uses them. The amount of time you spend on collecting signatures to get on the ballot, if you don't have ballot status, is enormous. The idea is we practice democracy. Go spend 3 months in the middle of the summer, thousands of volunteers hour, all this money, your entire budget to get on the ballot. And then when you get on the ballot, you collapse because you spent all your resources, trying to get on the ballot. The lack of thank you for being on this show, but the lack of access to the media. We're never on the cable, televised network. Newspapers don't really cover us much. We're not part of the media strategy. Well, you don't win. Well, if you don't cover us, we don't win. And, I thought the idea behind journalism was to cover the truth or cover what's important, not cover it as a horse race who's putting
Not in this country. Not in this country. At least
Well,
not at the corporate level. Not at the corporate level. There's great journalism in the United States, but you really got to dig.
But I also think the Greens have to become engaged more directly as an organization and not as individuals with the various social justice movements. And a lot of the Greens are very active in the social justice movement, but there's a tremendous discrimination in this country against progressive third parties. You type aren't allowed there. Well, wait a moment. You got 10 Democrats speaking at the rally. Oh, well, they're elected officials. They're not, politicians. And so Greens tend to hide their allegiance because it's just easier when you're organizing. But I said, you mentioned you're interested in the cannabis issue. Hey, we just legalized it somewhat in New York State. First time the Green Party got ballot status in New York State in 1998. Ran this guy, Grandpa Munster, Al Lewis, But really, who he was known for politically was fighting to end the Rockefeller drug laws. And we were the first party, to sort of promote legalization. Used to be the Green Party, at least in New York State. We were very strong on gay, lesbian, rights from day one, 30, 40 years ago. And so we were the gay rights party. And you go out petitioning and, a gay, lesbian, bisexual, queer individual. Oh my God, the Green Party's here. Let me sign your petition. A friend of mine was mayor of the village of New Paltz 20 years ago. Decided, I have the power to do marriages. I'm going to start performing same-sex marriages. And that helped, ignite that whole type of thing. The Greens are often out in front. It's out in front on climate. It's out in front of economic justice, $15 minimum wage. It coined the Green New Deal, ban, fracking. When we started the campaign in New York State to ban fracking, all the big environmental groups, the liberal Democrats, the Working Families Party, oh man, that's too radical. You can't speak at our rallies. Just got to study the issue. You got to study it. The radical demand should be a moratorium. We're like, what do you need a moratorium about? We know we don't want fossil fuels. Natural gas is a fossil fuel. You can debate the environmental impact, the public health impact, the water contamination. We believe that's all real, but it's a fossil fuel. So what do we debate in studying the issue? So, the Greens always sort of been out in front, but don't sort of get credit for that. And I think the Greens need to be, much more engaged. And you need a lot more younger people than me. The Greens used to be the party of young people. That's not the case at the moment. Many of them are going to DSA.
Why do you think that is?
I think Bernie Sanders. I think and Obama. I think Obama really brought in a lot of young people, gave them hope. Obama really was a young person phenomenon, and so those young people that gravitate, and other years would have gravitated, towards the Green Party, and then. Bernie came along and he caught fire, and we certainly picked up a lot of support after Bernie, dropped out in his first election cycle, not so much in the second election cycle. So, I think there's been this, 16-year period where you've had a couple of, good, articulate, liberal to progressive on Bernie's side, Democrats who attracted a lot of the young people. We got to be more relevant. I was attracted as a young person, to the Green Party because it's the anti-party, and it combined demonstrations and direct action and acted up when they were in Parliament and got thrown out of Parliament and, didn't behave. That's what attracted me, and I think the Greens need to do more of that type of stuff. But it's hard. And a lot of the Green Party stalwarts have been doing it for decades. They focus on ballot access, and that's what they've mastered. And the Green Party deserves credit, in my opinion. All these other third parties with so much more money, so much more support, the Labor Party, the New Party, the whatever they call the now political party, they've all faded away. The Green Party continues, but it focuses too much. It gets drained by the problem of trying to do ballot access. It needs new energy. It needs new people.
Well, one of the things...
when are you going to run for office as a Green Party candidate?
Never. I applaud people that do it, but I'm not meant for that side of the fence. I'm just not. I wouldn't make a good elected official.
It's a personal growth situation. Everybody should do it once in their life.
I know a lot of people who have said to me, and I could tell they were being 100% serious. They looked me in the eye and they said it was the worst experience of my life running for office. And I can see why. I've never done it, but I can totally see why. And if I ever did run for office, which I highly, highly doubt I ever will, but I guess never say never, I'd want to do local. I'd want to be on city council or something. I feel like that's just a better... Right. I feel like that would be where I'd be the most effective.
Well, I was elected to my town board in a very rural conservative community. I ran as a Green in New York. You're allowed to run on more than one line. So after I was on the ballot as a Green, the Democrats came and said, we're outnumbered 3-1. Will you take our line? Will you run our whole campaign for us? Whatever you want, it's your platform, do it. And we had 95% of the registered voters voted, which I think is sort of a record. 1,600 people out of a town of 1,800, and we won. And I said, I'm very cynical about electoral politics until I got elected. And then I became far more cynical.
Ha! Of course. Of course.
It was the fact that the Democrats had cross-endorsed me, They, they were trying to get our team. They didn't lobby me directly, but basically you sell out your platform that you just ran on. You won in a town, which was 3-1, the other party. You won. Well, you sell them out because the gravel company, which you all been fighting, gave the party a campaign contribution.
Well,
how much they give us?
How much?
$500. So you want to sell out?
Don't spend it all in one place, Mark.
Town. We had our houses shot out during the campaign. We had threats of violence, and you want us to go back on our principles. I went to the first meeting and said, I am not a Democrat. I am a Green. And all the Democrats yelled at me, no, you're a Democrat, because you get more votes in the Democratic line. By the third meeting, they were all screaming, you're a Green. I said, I told you.
One of the things I didn't hear you mention was ranked choice voting. And I know that's a big issue for the Greens right now. So where are you on that? Are you happy about that campaign, or where do you see potential there?
I like ranked choice voting. It's not as good, obviously, as proportional representation, but it does get rid of the lesser of two evil. Hey, I really agree with your platform. And I admit the Democrats sort of this corporate shrill,
Right.
but the Republican sucks. So I'm going to have to go vote for the Democrat. But if you can say, well, you can vote for me, choice, or the Green Party, choice 1, and the Democrat choice 2, and not even vote for number 3, that makes it easier. But, we had a woman, Lisa Savage, run in Maine for the United States Senate, and they have ranked choice voting. Very good candidate, an old, eco peace activist, teacher.
Yeah, I like Lisa a lot. Yeah, she was on this show.
But, it didn't help get her that much more, a vote. But a friend of mine who's now one of the big wigs in the New York State Senate.
But it did get her opportunities, though, that I don't think. I was definitely disappointed by those results, as I think we all were, and I was surprised because I thought Lisa was an excellent candidate. But I do think that she got opportunities that they would have excluded her from otherwise. I mean, she got press that I think she wouldn't have gotten otherwise. She got debate opportunities I don't think she would have gotten otherwise. So I think there were still, and I'm not trying to be overly optimistic, but I think there were still some reasons to be like, okay, this is going in the right direction.
Right. We've been promoting it for a decade. I was going to say a friend of mine basically cross-endorsed in her first race for New York State Senate, got elected. We asked her one thing, introduce a bill on, we called it IRV voting, instant runoff voting. Now it's ranked choice voting. It was like 20 years ago. So it's really great in the last 3 or 4 years. That has come into play. But, if the Democrats gave ranked choice voting, what reason would people have to vote for Democrats?
Right.
They need the fear of the lesser of two evil to drive their base to the polls. So, Maine, they did it by referendum. The politicians said, no, you can't do that. They did it again. They tried to say no again. I guess the court said, come on.
Oh, they're going to fight it, because it's Democrats are only able to be as ineffective as they are because of how gruesome Republicans are. And Republicans are only able to be as gruesome as they are because of how ineffective Democrats are. And that's bipartisanship, baby. They need each other. I really want to be shitty, and you help me be shitty. Well, you help me be shitty. And that's how they're simpatico. That is how they're simpatico.
And you mentioned H.R. 1, which basically is designed to kill third parties, at least from participating in federal political parties. I was actually the campaign treasurer of the first third-party candidate ever to qualify for federal primary matching funds. 1984, Citizens Party, remember the name?
No.
Sonia Johnson. She had been excommunicated from the Mormon Church for supporting the Equal Rights Amendment. That made her a big star. She almost defeated Eleanor Smeal for presidency of now. And then somebody said, well, what do you do now? Well, run for in any case, we qualify for federal primary matching funds. Hardly anybody's ever done it. sense, and now they're making it impossible. We need full public campaign financing, not just partial public campaign financing. We have that in New York City. They use that as a model. There's only one race that matters in New York City, and that's for mayor. He has all the power. And, large...
Do you have a person? Is there someone you're supporting?
Not so far in this year. We've lost ballot status in New York because once the Democrats got power in New York, they could kill us. We're in court, Libertarians in court, Working Families Party's in court, but we do not have a candidate. But do you know Reverend Billy at all?
No.
He's a performance artist, initially from San Francisco, been in New York City. In any case, he's a well-known performance activist artist. We ran him for mayor in New York City about 8 years ago. I thought that would have been a great campaign. We didn't quite connect. We didn't quite figure out how to do the performance art and the political stuff at the same time, because I think a lot of what third parties have to do is treat elections a bit as performance art and, be a little bit over the top. And it's like the only way the media gives us attention is if we do something crazy. And the strategy, you got to do something crazy, but people don't think you're crazy for doing it. So it has to be funny and provocative, but doesn't make you look too weird.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a very difficult balance.
That's what Abby Hoffman and all those folks were doing.
Right.
All right. So where can people go to learn more about you?
Well, gp.org, greenparty.org nationally. Eco Action Committee has a webpage. A lot of my climate stuff, I have my own little green group, Green Education Legal Fund. So gelfny.org. Has our material on it. Biden Summit's coming up. We're doing Earth Day to May Day, and we'll be doing a lot of seminars about nuclear power and about the military and the relationship to climate as part of the Earth Day and May Day stuff.
Right on.
And turn into your station.
Cheers, man. Well, Mark, thank you so much for being here today. I really enjoyed talking to you. And everyone, check out gp.org. Follow Mark on Twitter and everything he's got going on.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and